Thanks, Mark. I always love digging into new development practices. Thanks for adding extreme go horse development to my list of anti practices. Next, as we work our way through the Juju ecosystem, we've explored the value of building charmed operators, creating one of our own, adding observability to it, setting up tests using the testing harness. Next, we'll look at publishing charms. A lot of thought has gone into ensuring that the community can build reusable, shareable infrastructure as code. And here to tell us more about it is Pedro Cruz and Michael Jaeger.
Cool. So thanks, David. And my name is Pedro Cruz. I'm a product lead at Canonical, and I'm joined by Michael Jaeger, who is a product manager for the Charm collection. And today we want to talk a bit about the process of publishing your charmed operators. So how does your charms how do they go from your development system to the actual user system? So what is the path that they take until they get to the final user? And I think that's an extremely important part of the development lifecycle of an application, and that's important for everyone. The developers, they want to have an easy and consistent way to distribute software, and the users, they want to have a secure way to consume it. And in the Juju project, we've put a lot of thought into that, and I wanted to share some of it with you today. So before we actually start talking about this, I just wanted to propose a really quick meta reflection here. So what is open source in the first place? And if I can suggest a very loose definition of the meaning of open source, I would just say that it is certainly more than just forgotten code that was posted in a repository and left there to die. A good open source project, as many of these charmed operators that you're going to work on are going to be, we have much more than that. If you intend for this project to be successful, they will engage a very diverse community. They will have a great documentation. I mean, how frustrating it is to find a great app that does not have good documentation teaching you how to use it. They also have an active forum. People will be answering issues and welcoming new members of the community. And it's also about the day two story. So how do you operate and maintain your application alive? How many knobs and buttons will people have to press and turn to keep the application alive? And another important aspect is that as a maintainer, you also want to consider how easy it is for people to consume your application, how easy it is for people to install the right version in the first place, and then what's the update story? How do you guarantee they're not going to break people's systems? And that's why the release process is so important for an open source application. That's what we're talking about here today. And the way that we release charms actually considers all these things that make an open source project good. If we could reduce the problem that we are talking about here today into a diagram, it would probably look a little bit like this. You have your amazing charm that you just created, and you want the widest audience possible to consume that in an organized fashion. So how do we go with this? Well, for charmed operators, you can count on Charm Hub, and Mikkel, my colleague, will talk a bit about this now.
Right, thank you, Pedro. So we have Charm Hub for publishing charms, and Charm Hub is the place where you can find a collection of operators covering all different applications that we came across so far in the internet. It is accessible for everyone. Why is it so important to have a collection of operators at some central place? Maybe let's step back a little and think about how we do use applications today. Modern applications, in fact, are composed applications. It's not really that you have the one application. You have an application that consists of several different application elements. There are web servers, there are database servers. Maybe you have a separate thing which is doing caching for you, as we have seen in the previous presentation from Simon. We have Grafana, Prometheus, maybe, as application elements. You might have an authorization server in your organization or something that facilitates the user management for you. All these different elements make maybe one application for you. And all these elements demand to be operated as well. And therefore, you would like to have operators for them as well. And for all these operators in this collection, it's good to basically have an app store The App Store is the central place, so the ecosystem is not fragmented. And it helps you finding all the available operators, so you don't need to search the internet for different places to form your own collection of operators available. If you put operators at some central location, duplicates or variants of operators for the same application are minimized, because it becomes more probably obvious that variants or duplicates for the same application exist. Also, it's more likely that if they exist, they get consolidated. It brings all the developers of different operators together in one place. And of course, if you think about how app stores work today, probably you think of app stores for your smartphone. The smartphone is actually technically integrated with the App Store. You don't do manual downloads and manual install steps, actually. It is all done for you. And the same way Juju works with CharmHub. You control Juju, and Juju makes sure that everything important, from the charmed operator to the involved resources, the covered applications, everything is downloaded and installed where you would like to have it installed to. And last but not least, if you have that central place like CharmHub.io, it's really easy to implement quality and track quality, because one common idea of quality can be implemented across the collection of charms. Quality is a big word. What does it mean for us? Well, first of all, it means for us that we need to take it seriously, because this is about operative software in companies, organizations, and probably used by many. And therefore, we would like to invite everybody, of course, to the community, but we rely on your expert knowledge to build operators. And of course, we are oriented to have a merit-based community, meaning that those who contribute should also have some ability to shape the community and to shape the way operators work. At the same time, it's important for us that open source is preferred. So open source is transparency on what happens and what is there on operators. And this is actually crucial to enable collaboration on operators, to enable the community on operators. And transparency at the same time is one of the crucial elements to ensure security. We would like to know what's going on and what's going to happen. Therefore, we need this transparency. And therefore, it would be the best way to provide charmed operators, of course, on CharmHub, but at the same time, to provide them also as open source projects. As we have seen with the previous presentation from Mark Oppenheimer about the testing harness and the testing facilities that the operator framework provides to you, it is obvious that we take testing also very serious. Testing enables dependability and the idea of understanding if there's regression or not. And therefore, we have all the facilities presented in the earlier presentation. And that, of course, is also supporting our quality goals. And last but not least, there is consistency. If you think about the operator framework, it's not only source code, it's not only software, it's not only functions you can use in your own developments, it's guidance and it's standardization. If people use the operator framework as we provided today, they have also the guidance how they implement operators and how they implement operators of operations of applications. And that makes the charms look more uniform and easier to operate for those who use them. And about using charms and making it look more uniform, maybe just one thought, which we find very, very important to consider, why the approach of software operators, why the approach of the charmed operators with the operator framework is actually so valuable. So the idea is to have one operator per each application element. That sounds trivial, but it's a conscious design decision. It is actually a design pattern which has been already published. Software operators, this approach is a design pattern, and it enables a number of advantages which have been proven useful over the years of its application. So one thing is, obviously, if you have an operator covering each application element, it enables composition. If you look at other technologies, they operate these application compositions as a whole, not really identifying individual application elements. That's actually difficult because if you would like to form a new composition, it's not as easy as if you would have every application element covered by a single operator. And at the same time, as I said before, with the guidance, and as it was pointed out by Daniela, with the consistent operator user experience already, if we have operators written in one framework, they standardize the operation and provide that consistent user experience. And at the same time, if you have an operator per application, this brings together persons interested in an application and the operator with it from different angles, from different application cases. So that's really focusing on operating the application and not really focusing on a composition use case when it comes to operating applications. And that it is. And now we would like to hand over to some practical part. Back to Pedro.
Cool. Thank you, Mikkel. So the question remains, how do we make use of all these amazing Charm Hub features that Mikkel just presented? How do we actually bridge our development systems with a Charm Hub and all these features, and we start publishing our charmed operators? And the answer for that is Charmcraft. Charmcraft is a CLI tool that will allow you to perform several important tasks in the development lifecycle for charmed operator. And you can actually use Charmcraft on Linux, Mac, or Windows. There are instructions for that. You can install it in any of the systems. And the commands, they're really intuitive, but I just wanted to spend some time talking about one of them, the release command. So, yeah. So the problem is that as a developer, you publish a bunch of versions of your application, and it's charmed operators, of course. And these versions, they might be in different stages of development. They might offer different risks to the user. They might be edge, beta, candidate, or stable. So how do users will know what versions of the charmed operators they'll be getting at deployment time, or when they're upgrading their systems? How do you guarantee that a new version will not break everyone's systems, right? And will not break compatibility? So that's where the concept of channels enter. Channels are essentially subspaces under the same charm name. And when a user deploy a charmed operator, they can specify a channel from where to get the charmed operator. And when they do that, their systems will only get updates from that specific channel. And we call that tracking a channel. So their systems will be always tracking a channel. And in this example here, the name of the channels are 2/candidate, 1.1/stable, 1.1/edge, and 0.9/beta. And the developer can upload as many revisions as they want to that channel, that can contain bug fixes or patches. But the thing is that the user will only get those revisions which were released to the channel they are tracking. So this way, you do not risk breaking compatibility, and you guarantee that the upgrade process is going to be, it's not going to introduce any data compatibility break or a problem between major versions. So that also allows the distributors, the developers, to distribute software in a more sane way, in a more sane manner. So now it's time for the demo to actually show how this Charmcraft tool works in real life. So if we can switch oh, there you go. Let me just open the CLI here. Cool. So the first thing that we want to do is to actually authenticate our command line interface here. So Charmcraft needs to, Charm Hub needs to authenticate Charmcraft. And the way that you do that usually is running Charmcraft login. I will open a browser window, and it's quite simple. Just go to Charm Hub, you authenticate with your account, and the CLI will identify that you authenticated in the browser. I'm running on a headless system here, so you can just pass the token, which is something that I've already done, and I can run who am I to see if this token is active. And as you can see, there you go. I am authenticated. So the next thing that you want to do after authenticating is to run Charmcraft register, and then the name of the charm. Is I'm using the sync charm demo. I'm registering a different name from what Daniela and other presenters were using, just to not mess up with their deployments, with their charms on Charm Hub. And what you were actually doing here is you were asking Charm Hub to reserve this name for you. You're associating this charm name to to your user on Charm Hub. That's exactly what the message is saying there. So the next thing that we want to do is to upload. So yeah, of course. So here I have my charm artifact already created, already packed. So now we want to upload this to Charm Hub, and we can do that with charm craft upload. Just copy and paste this. Okay. You just run the upload command, and what that is doing is creating the first revision of your charm on Charm Hub. And every time you upload a new version of your charm, you're going to get a new revision, and that's a sequential number, sequential unique number that identifies that specific upload. So the next thing that we want to do, because Zinc will actually use an OCI image, we also want to upload the OCI image, which is a resource for the charm. And I have the OCI image here on my Docker registry, on my local Docker registry. And we just need to get the digest for the image. This, there we go. It's a bit complicated to see, but what we want here is the short version. Short version will do. So we have the public image for Zinc and the short version of the digest. And I'm just gonna run charm craft upload resource charm demo sync image, then image equals to this here. Is that right? Yes, I think it's right. So what we're actually doing here is we're uploading, as we uploaded the charm artifact, now we're uploading the resource. And we need to specify, of course, what charm will be using the resource and what is the name of the resource that you define on the metadata.yaml file. So when you run this command, Charm Hub will look for this resource on Canonical's repository, OCI repository. And if you cannot find that, we'll look into your local Docker repository, which is what's going on here. So at the moment, yeah, cool. So we found my local repository, and it's uploading to Charm Hub from my local system. Awesome. So since we just uploaded the charm, which is here, we have the first revision of the Zinc charm demo, and we have the first revision of the resource Zinc image. These things are loose on Charm Hub. They're not associated, they're not binded they're not binded to themselves, to each other. So when people deploy the Zinc charm, how the systems, their local systems, will know that they need to pull that specific Zinc image. And the way that you bind these things together is, well, there are several ways to do that, but what I'm going to do here, I'm going to do it at the release moment. So I have the charm release, I have the charm uploaded to Charm Hub, and I need to release it to a channel, as we previously talked in the slides there. So what I'm doing here is I'm running charmcraft release, the Zinc charm demo, and that's the first revision. And the resource that I'm going to use for that charm is going to use in that channel is going to be the Zinc image, the first revision. And I want to release this to the channel latest and with a risk edge. And that's exactly what happened here. So now we have the first revision of the charm, Zinc charm demo, released to latest edge, and I'm attaching the resource Zinc image, the first revision. So it looks like a bit of a scary command, but actually it's quite simple what I'm doing here. I had two artifacts in the store on Charm Hub, and I want to associate them. So when people deploy Zinc, they will be guaranteed to get the correct resource image. So now what we can do actually is just to check if things worked fine. So we can run charmcraft status demo. Hopefully we show that we have a track called latest, which is correct, and we have a version released on the channel with the risk edge, and a resource associated to that called Zinc Image with revision 1. So that's it. People now can just run Juju deploy sync sync charm demo, and they should be getting this specific version of the charm and the resource. So if we can go back to the presentation now. The thing is that Juju and Charmed Operators, the project is complete 100% open source. So we really invite everyone to come and join us on charmhub.io, and we have a discourse instance if you want to post questions. And we also have a Mattermost chat if you just want to get to know the team or ask questions there as well. So that's it from me. If there are any questions, please feel free to ask them here or on the chat. And back to you, David.